Next speaker for this session is Jinju from UCSF, and going to talk about constructive learning for cross-domain reconciliation and discovery.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jinju, and I'm a postdoc fellow in Zeph Gardner's lab. And today, it's really my honor to present to you a sort of new machine learning framework, which hopefully could change how people approach machine learning and how people use machine learning to discover cellular landscape. So we are interested in revealing the cellular landscape because, as people already have presented today, it is crucial for understanding the developmental process and the disease progression process. And for basically, with this understanding, we can sort of reprogram cells along this landscape to different states, for example, reprogram immune cells for fighting cancer. Oops. It's not working. Oh, okay. Cool. So a central question is that how do we learn the low-dimensional representation of this cellular state landscape? And because single-cell technology was only capturing a snapshot of the entire landscape, people often collect different time points and from different spatial locations given a tissue of interest. For example, our lab have collected intestine developmental data from different time points and different zones so that we can map this integral landscape of cellular differentiation during intestine development. And we basically will come to this foundational challenge, which is how do we integrate data with limited overlap across all these different batches? And depending on the assumption of the integration methods, people can get into all sorts of artifacts during the integration. For example, you could have gaps, which breaks apart the entire view of the landscape, and you could have any misalignment of the manifold, which will lead to some misinterpretation of the cell state landscape. So a central question is that can we use some machine learning methods to really discover the underlying ground truths of the cellular state landscape? And for example, in adult homeostasis, cells form distinct clusters because they follow some gene co-expression structure. And from yesterday, we already learned that the cell does not randomly sample genes from the high-dimensional gene expression space, but rather they're constrained by gene regulatory mechanisms and cell-cell communications to a much lower dimensional manifold within this high-dimensional space. So how do we learn this manifold or this structure is a crucial question of representation learning. And for example, in development and disease progression, we could have something like Waddington's landscape where our cells keep bifurcating and differentiating. And we could have also cell cycle loops in the structure. And what we want a good dimension reduction, or in machine learning's context, representation learning to show us is that all these key structures should be preserved in the latent embedding. And one of the techniques in machine learning is called self-supervised contrastive learning, which some of the previous speakers already talked about. And we want to approach this in a different perspective, not using a very fancy architecture, but think about how we approach this self-supervised contrastive learning. For example, if we think about how the contrastive learning is done, is that you sample a subset of the cells from the entire data set and form this kind of mini batch, which is a fundamental unit of how contrasting is done during the machine learning. And normally, people do this in a uniform sampling way, meaning that you just uniform sample from the entire data set to form a mini batch of 64 cells or 100 cells so that you compare the cells against each other. And the model will extract from this kind of comparison what is the underlying gene programs in each of the cell states. So eventually, we get this latent compressed representation of the cell state manifold. And as you can see, like PCA, this self-supervised contrastive learning was able to see the distinct clusters. However, you can see from the actual simulated gene expression data that the green and purple cells are actually distinct cell states. But contrastive learning along with PCA was not able to resolve these structures. So maybe let's try again. Because people know that mini-batch will influence machine learning outcomes, can we engineer the mini-batch in a way that it resolves these local structures? So instead of just doing the uniform sampling, we could enrich each of the mini batch with some local sampling from the local neighborhoods, so that the model not only sees the global differences between cell types, but also has the opportunity to compare subtle differences between cell states. As a result, what you get from the latent is a much refined representation where you can see the cell state differences, and the close-by cell states are actually pulled apart. There is another fundamental challenge, is that self-supervised contrastive learning does not solve batch effect. This is because if you have one single batch, everything just goes through the mini batch and goes through this contrastive model, and everything is fine. You basically learn the cell state landscape. However, if you have data from different batches, things is a little bit complicated. Because when you uniformly random sample from the entire data set, you basically get cells coming from different batches within this mini batch unit. And when you contrast cells within this mini batch unit, the model will essentially capture the batch effect. And people have come up with all sorts of ways. For example, you can append to the model auxiliary losses so that this kind of adversarial loss corrects for the batch effect. However, this kind of additional objective conflicts with contrastive learning's central goal of pulling distant cells apart. So it's more like a patch to the problem rather than really fixing the problem. And what you get in the end is some sort of separation between both cell types and data sets. So we want to ask the question, can we re-engineer the training process of contrastive learning so that we solve this batch effect problem? Like I showed, with the conventional sampler, we get this issue. However, we can engineer the sampler in a smarter way so that all this contrastive learning is done within a single data set, meaning that you just restrict the contrastive learning or mini-batch sampling to each of the single data set. And the model has no chance to see the batch effect because you are only comparing within a data set. And the batch variation essentially goes in the parallel axis, which is the training axis, so that if you have any batch effect encoded in one of the mini batches, it basically gets washed out because it's an inconsistent signal across the data sets. And as a result, you basically get a latent representation, which is batch effect free. So in practice, we found that you don't really need the batch composition to be exclusively coming from one batch. You can basically just have some enrichment so that the batch effect still gets washed away, and you still have the opportunity to learn what is the biological variation across different data sets. And you can basically combine this scheme with the previously neighborhood-aware sampling scheme to this joint probabilistic scheme where you both increase the resolution of the representation, but also the correcting batch effect at the same time. So how does this perform? I should mention that all this evaluation is done with a very simple minimalistic neural network, which I just have a single input layer, a single output layer, and a single hidden layer in the middle. So it's very simple. And with simulated data, well, we can simulate a tree, and we can add noise to the tree, and we can add a batch effect to the tree. Okay, so this is how many popular existing data integration methods perform on this data set. You can see that Scanorama was able to align the data sets. Liger and Harmony failed. SCVI was able to align, but if you zoom into the local structures, you can see that the alignment is not complete. And the standard contrastive learning will amplify the batch effect instead of correcting it. What is interesting with Concord is that you can see that it not only aligns the two batches, but also learns a denoised version of the underlying structure, suggesting it has the power of denoising. So how about real data set? The C. elegans embryogenesis process goes through an invariant lineage. So it is a perfect case for us to benchmarking our contrastive learning method. And there is this very close by species called Seabrooksy, which basically shows the exactly embryogenesis lineage tree structure with a C. elegans. And previously, Lach et al. Have collected single-cell data from both species across multiple batches so that we can benchmark the integration algorithms on this two-species multi-batch data set. So here's how it looks like when you just naively combine everything together. And you can see it's separated by batch and separated by species. Scandinoma was not able to align the two species. Harmony was able to align, but you don't have the resolution of the individual cell fates. SCVI does much better job. You can see the terminal cell fate was separated, but it can't resolve the early progenitor cells leading to those terminal cell fates. And Surratt does a better job in resolving the terminal cell fates as well, and you can see the filaments of trajectories, but the landscape is broken apart. As you can see that there is many gaps in the landscape. So here's how Concord with one very minimalistic neural network was able to perform, is that it not only aligns the trajectories, but also shows you a complete map of the manifold where you can trace the cell from the progenitor cell state to the very terminal cell fate. And because Concord learns so much detailed structure of the landscape, 2D UMAP was not enough to visualize a lot of complex structures. So we go to 3D, and you can see that at the bottom of the map is the germline, and the point of bifurcation is where zygotic bifurcation starts to happen. And you can see all these detailed structures of how cells go into different fates. And for example, like some muscle cells, hypodermis, and the bifurcation pattern like a flower is essentially the neuron cells. And we can basically look at some specific examples. And I should say that this is not cherry-picked. For example, the ASE, ASJ, AUA neuron all come from a progenitor cell called AVPRA. And here's a 3D UMAP of a popular integration methods in R called Surratt. And you can see that Surratt was not able to resolve the late branches, and it shows a gap. Similar things happen in SCVI. And how does Concord perform? What is remarkable is that you can see a trajectory almost exactly resembling the lineage tree bifurcation structure. And you can also resolve this very fine bifurcation of the AUA and ASJ neurons, for example. And you can trace the cells from the terminal fate back to its progenitor state. And Concord runs super fast because we only have a very simple neural net. And its fastest algorithm running on the entire gene expression data matrix only takes 30 minutes on a very standard NVIDIA GPU. And it even runs on my laptop. And for other data sets, for example, mammalian development, where I showed you earlier, we can basically look at how Concord performs on this data set. And what we found Concord is different from the other method is that it not only resolves the broad cell types like other methods, but also shows a lot of substructures within each of the cell types. For example, the cell cycle structure, where you can see a lot of loops coupled with differentiation. And because Concord learns so much details in the structure, you can basically directly take from the global UMAP and do a zooming analysis. For example, you can see that Concord learns the real epithelial cell types, such as EEC cells, and remarkably, it shows there is two parallel loops coming from the distal zone and proximal zone doing the differentiation. And from a different angle, you can see that Concord was able to see the cell cycle structure of the progenitor cells. So in conclusion, we show that without changing the architecture or introducing auxiliary losses, with just a very simple sampling scheme, which changes the order how the model is seeing the cells, you can basically profoundly shape the outcome of contrastive learning. And as a result, you basically get this batch-corrected, high-resolution representation of the cell state landscape. Because this learning is very robust, meaning that you can do it with like any scale of data set, it can be naturally extended to many different applications. And with that, I want to thank my PI, Zach Gardner, and my lab and collaborators, and the funding source. Thank you very much.
Very cool method. I remember in some workshop that when you look at these different merging methods like merge RCA or harmony, usually which method work best to depend on the kind of data sets. Mm-hmm. I just wonder if you are suggesting that your method is better across the board for different kinds of merging, or is particular like type of data sets that work better and some that is not going to work as well?
Yeah, that's a great point. We actually benchmarked on a bunch of single-cell RNA-seq data set, for example, across species, across batches, and we have also benchmarked, tested on some spatial omics data set. And across all these kind of different data sets, we have seen like state of the art, like outperforming other methods' performance of Concord. So it's not, I don't think it's a data set specific scheme. And it's a very simple principle, which I think can generate to any other data modalities. For example, imaging data could be one potential application.
That's cool. Also, I'm curious because I think the fine resolution you can see on your zoom is really, I think you haven't seen with other algorithms. So for that, I'm curious because you show C. elegans, development, and then the lineage. But then when they, for example, after differentiation, then if they have changes on the different, so this, like it's not the cell type change, it's a state change.
Right.
You think the algorithm will be sensitive enough to tell those subtle changes?
Yes, actually, let me show you a hidden slide, which I have somewhere out here. So on the C. elegans data set, maybe I can't see my mouse. Okay, right, yeah, so I saw it. So we can basically, let me see the example here. So this is the actual latent representation of SCVI and Seurat and Concord. And what we see here is that if you just look at the UMAP of the heat map of the latent, the ASE neuron actually divides into two clusters, only in Concord latent. And what is interesting is that the ASE neuron, it has a left-right symmetry, and they are like morphologically like symmetric, but functionally asymmetric. So Concord was able to see this kind of cell subtype differences between the two subneurons.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. Do we have a question from Zoom? Okay, so thank you, T.
Thank you.
Yeah.